one of the things I want to teach you now is practice dropping the criticisms, practice making those less important, practice increasing your self-appreciation. It'll not only make you feel better, it'll make you behave better in terms of having the kind of relationships you want, having the kind of experiences that you want. Because like I said, although we're not going to focus on that a lot, if you want to increase your income, increase your self-esteem. Direct relationship. Okay? Now, any questions on that, any of this yet? Okay.
What about when you're using criticism in the best possible way, which is to make yourself better? I mean, you want to avoid that as well.
Oh yeah, criticism to make yourself better has a good intention. But what was it said about the road to hell? Okay. There's an American saying, or it might be English too, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Okay? Criticism, because of it increases tension, okay, interferes with the very thing that you want to achieve. I remember we had a course one time here on this island, and a woman, while she was taking the course, she was also taking tennis lessons. And we were talking about this kind of thing in the course. But in her tennis lessons, the instructor was old school, and he would criticize her for every mistake that she made, for every time she didn't hold the racket properly or step or swing. And finally she stopped him in the middle of the lesson, about halfway through the course. And she said, look, I don't want any more criticisms. I want you to tell me what I've done right. He said, well, you're paying, so I'll do what you want. Totally foreign to him, but he started doing it. And she improved so well. At the end of the course and the end of her lessons, he said, that's what I'm using from now on. There was no comparison with the effects of how the old system worked. This was so much more efficient. And the improvement was able to go farther than could happen in a normal set of lessons like that. So it's a good intention to get better, but criticism is one of the very worst techniques you can use to do it. Yeah. Okay. And especially in your social relations. Okay? Yes?
So then how do you evaluate yourself? I mean, is there a place for evaluation and deciding that you could do something better?
Sure. We have a very clear, based on Hawaiian tradition, we have a very clear self-evaluation system. Okay? It's called the feel-good factor. You know you're doing well if it feels good. Okay? There you go. It's not a question of having some kind of written measurement or some kind of analytical, intellectual measurement. How do you feel? If it feels good. Now, there's a couple kinds of feeling good. There's a feel good that helps you relax. And a feel good that gives you a tension high. That's a different thing. Okay? The real feel good factor, if you know you're doing it right, is you also relax. Okay? Okay. Yes?
I didn't feel more relaxed when I was thinking about positive things.
What's that again?
I felt a little more alert when I was thinking about positive things, but I just actually felt tense.
Tense. Well, she felt tense when she was thinking about the positive things, even though she did feel more alert. That's a common occurrence when you're beginning a process like this, because it's an unfamiliar pattern. To the degree that it's an unfamiliar pattern, it will feel strange, and it can even increase tension temporarily. Especially if you're going against all the old rules that a lot of people grew up with that say you're not supposed to think too well of yourself.
I don't care for those old rules, but boy did I get them.
Yes, right. And see, it's a good awareness that they're there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they can be operating, and even though we've forgotten about them. It's something like your underwear. If I hadn't mentioned your underwear, you probably wouldn't have thought about it most of the day. Okay? It's still there on most of you. Okay? But until I brought it to your attention, it was in the background. Okay? Well, we have a lot of these kinds of rules that are sitting there in the background, doing their thing, influencing all our behavior, and we're not even aware of it anymore because we're so used to it. Okay? So, doing an exercise like this is a good way to discover what is running in the background. And then deciding, this is all deciding, I'm not trying to change you, deciding what you want to do about it. I'm going to give you ways and means to change it if you want to, but you can always keep it going if you prefer. Yes?
There's an expression, fake praise, bound by fake praise. If you say, like your example of a tennis player, only say what I've done well or what I've done right. If they don't do anything right, then you're not going to say anything. So you're implying criticism, aren't you? So there's a trick.
Not necessarily, no. Now, it takes sometimes a bit of skill, but you can always find something they've done right. Hey, wow, that was good. When you fell down, you didn't drop the racket. Okay? Come on. Okay. Yes.
Suzuki, that taught music, was a master at that. And one time all the teacher trainers were sitting there thinking, this kid is so awful, he can't possibly say anything. What is he going to do? So he said, good, you play.
That's right.
He wasn't saying it was good.
Right, but he did play. That's right. So, yeah, you know, if you're not locked into the idea that there can't be any good, there is always good, even if it's small. That's what I was telling you before. The size of the goodness is not what's important. And I talked about tying your shoe, and that sounds like a joke, but if you do appreciate how well you tied your shoe, you're going to feel this little glow inside, just from that acknowledgement from yourself. Okay? Yes.
One of the things I got out of that exercise is I often define myself as good by what I do for other people.
Mm-hmm.
But my body relaxed when I praised it for sleeping well, for getting up and taking a shower, for brushing my teeth, for really
Excellent.
simple things. It really liked all that a lot.
That's right. That's right. Anything which is done well, your body feels good about. And when you acknowledge it, it feels better about it. And it doesn't matter the size of what it is. Okay? Well, yes, right. I really ran the car into the hill over there and destroyed it totally. But boy, I slept well last night. And you're going to feel your body relax and respond. Oh, at least you acknowledge that. Okay? No, that's really true. Any acknowledgement of any accomplishment is going to reinforce the good feeling and the skill at that accomplishment. Okay. Yes?
One of the rules that I was taught that I never had really thought about until this morning, I guess, is that it was a very good thing if you would recognize and acknowledge your own mistakes.
Yeah, a lot of people were taught that. That's right. More important than acknowledging your successes.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, sure. Because there's a whole societies have grown up with this as the fundamental thing. Correcting mistakes is more important than appreciating successes, okay, or goodness. So a lot of people have even grown up and never having received any kind of praise or words of love from their parents, and yet their parents are really trying to make them better people by constantly dwelling on their faults as a means of trying to move them ahead. When I had a difficult time because of my own interpretations when I was going to school early on. And that's because I would really do my best to please my parents and come home with good grades. And I enjoyed the work, actually, most of it. But I'd come home, and if I had a B, I always got the comment, okay, oh, you can do better than that. Then I found that if I got an A, I got same statement. You can do better than that. Okay? And so what I started to feel was never any acknowledgement for anything I did right. And that feeds us as human beings. It feeds our emotional self. It almost sometimes feels like it feeds our soul. That kind of acknowledgement of having done something right. And yet, with the best of intentions, again, my loving mother, without realizing it, I felt put down every time. What's the point of trying? What's the point of trying? There's no reward. Okay? So I had to struggle through that. Hadn't learned at that point in my life how to give it to myself. Okay? The sooner we can teach that to kids, the better. That old way, which is still very common around, running in the background.
Complimented. You were actually praised for finding.
My mother thought she was encouraging me. She was actually diminishing any effort that I made, in my mind. Okay, so my interpretation is what matters, because that's how I felt. Right, and other times it's much worse.
Well, in my situation, if I could find my own mistakes, then I was praised for this.
Sure, of course. So you were encouraged to criticize yourself.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And that's a tough one to get over. I mean, at least you were praised for having found your mistakes. Exactly. All right? There are some people who've grown up in families where there was nothing but abuse.
Yeah.
Verbal abuse. Okay? And they can change, and I've seen them change. The change begins now, and you simply have to start purposely thinking differently about yourself. Not pretend stuff, purposely focusing on the good things you do and making those more important. Yeah.
Seems to me you got the message that nothing is ever good enough.
That's what
You cannot succeed, no matter how good you are.
That was my-
Look at you, you're an incredible achiever.
Well, that was my interpretation at the time.
But the message that you're getting from them is, of course,
That is never good enough.
You could ever be good enough.
That's right. That's right. That was the message as
Killer.
I interpreted. Well, no, I turned myself around. Believe me,
You sure did it a good way, but wow.
I did, but it took a while.
Yeah.
Believe there were times in my life when I didn't look this good. I applied the things I'm teaching you. Yes.
There's a school of thought that talks about that talks about applying it to children. Sort of overly doing the "you're great, you're great, you're great" ill prepares them for when they fall.
Sure.
And sort of they fall hard and kind of lack the will to kind of go back again. Can you speak to that a little?
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good.
The balance of this.
This praise and appreciation thing only works when it's real praise and appreciation for something that's valid, something that you believe is valid. When you have situations in some of the schools now where every kid gets a prize, no matter how bad they are, and no matter whether they've totally ignored everything, what does that teach? That teaches that reward is empty. Praise is empty. Everybody's hypocritical. They're all phony. That takes away incentive like mad, except for the ones who have found it inside themselves. Okay? So that's no solution. We're not talking about praise for the words. We're talking about appreciating stuff that you know was well done. That's what works. That kind of acknowledgement. Even like we said, if it was brushing the teeth, you can't get away from the fact that the teeth were brushed well if they were brushed well, that sleep was good if it was good. I mean, all those apparently small things, size doesn't matter here. Okay? You acknowledge the goodness, but it's got to be a goodness that the person believes is a goodness. Yes?
So, actually, you're doing much more harm by giving the impression that praise is empty.
Yes.
If you do that, because then they can't even praise themselves, because what is this that I'm doing? Because it's not worth anything anyway, because anyone gets a prize.
That's right. It makes it much more difficult for them to turn themselves around.
Yeah.
Okay? But never impossible. Never impossible. Yes.
How do you deal with, say, working with a young child and you're using these ideas, and then they go into a schoolroom where they have to spend, say, 6 hours a day with somebody who has a different approach, and their approach
Sure.
is to criticize. How do you prepare a child for that?
Well, I'll tell you how I prepared my children, because that was the situation when my children were growing up. And so I got all three of them together, and I said, look, guys, 3 boys, I said, let me tell you something about life. Let me tell you something not only about life, but about school, especially school. It's a game, kids. It's just a game. The rules say that for now, at your age, you have to play the game. But it's just a game. Don't take it seriously. Learn what you want to learn, do the best you can, get through it. The more you know the rules, the easier it's going to be to play the game. And they did that, and with that attitude, 2 of them aced their way through the rest of the schooling. 1 of them came up with an incredibly creative solution, because he took me literally. And this was in high school, and he went and studied the rules. I got to tell you this one, because he found that there was a school, that in our school district, there was a rule, there was a particular type of school for kids who were really slow. That's what it was designed for. So they had as much time as they wanted to put in all their assignments, right? Which could mean years. Right? But the rules said you will graduate when all your assignments are in. All right. He did all his assignments in 3 weeks, piled them on the teacher's table. They had to go and check the rules, but he did what he was supposed to do. He was out, had almost a whole year that he had finished. Okay. And that came because I gave him that way of looking at it, which is non-threatening, and yet you had to do it properly, because it's the game you have to play. But he did it really well.